My name is Scott James Magner, and I am a writer. You've probably never heard of me before now, but that's okay. I've done a lot of game products, video games, and I have a new book out I want to talk to you about today. I know that a lot of writers get a lot of traction going to bookstores and conventions and reading from their books. You can listen to someone speak, get a sense of how they intended the word to be read, and then you can go buy the book. Well, my book is an ebook. It's available from Amazon.com. You can see it here. It's called Hearts of Iron. No glare. There we go. Hearts of Iron. But it's available online. That's where it lives. It lives on e-readers in an electronic format. So I thought I would do a reading. I would do a book tour of my own here, where the book is based on the internet, and you get a chance to hear it before you can buy it. Buying the book is, of course, the point of all this, and we hope that perhaps you'll like to do that. So I'm going to read from the first chapter today. I'm going to put on my glasses so I appear more intelligent, and I hope you'll like it. Hearts of Iron. Chapter 1. Salerno, 1035 A.D. William of Hauteville, late of Capua, late of Normandy, in service to Prince Guaimar of Salerno, smiled as the sword came at him. He pushed the tentative stroke away with a strong part of his own blade, bending his left wrist to position his round shield. With its rawhide edge, he smashed back at his opponent. Father taught you better than this, Humphrey, as did I. His younger brother tried to counter with his kite-shaped shield, but it was less versatile than the other disc William had selected for their match. The older disc William had selected for their match. Handled properly, the kites most Normans use offered good protection to lower legs when mounted. But you never bothered to learn everything about the shield, dear brother. Just enough to get by. More than most men, but you're far from being able to best me. And matches like this always go to the more skilled man. Away from their home, fighting under an indifferent Italian sun, both men were hot and tired, yet exhilarated by the contest. Cotton gambesons beneath their mail coats did a fine job of absorbing moisture, but Humphrey had elected to dispense with the covering surcoat today, thinking to gain mobility and a slight advantage over his brother. Instead, he invited the sun's heat directly onto his armor, and from experience, William knew his brother must be swimming in sweat by now, despite the undergarment. With his left hand holding the sword's power off to the side, and his right trying to bring his kite back into position, Humphrey had no defense against his brother's counterstrike. The weighted practice blade would not penetrate his brother's mail, but Humphrey's weak opening gambit allowed William to use almost his full strength for a killing blow if he wished. Using just enough force to serve as a reminder of who was the eldest, he punched forward with both sword and shield. The dull blade hit his brother hard across the chest and sat him down on his backside. Drogo! Result! Their middle brother stood unarmored to the side of the villa's dusty practice area, a wide space enclosed by what passed for walls in this country. Drogo was pointedly ignoring one of Guaimar's clerks at his side, and the strength of that indifference gave William a fair idea of what the prince wanted today. Drogo bore an even stronger resemblance to their father than did William, and had Humphrey not favored his left hand like their sire, an unwise man might speculate as to his true parentage. But the 12 sons of Tancred were clearly his and none others. Any man daring to suggest otherwise would soon be missing much more than a wagging tongue. Pitiful, said Drogo. You let him live, albeit with broken ribs and a shattered collar. Sword arm useless for half a year at least. I owe you half a cask for being right. Little brother lacks the spleen necessary to set you on your ass. Under the twin metal edges of mail coif and helm, Humphrey's eyes burned. At home, Drogo's jest would be pleasantly shared with all fighting men present, but the bewildered clerk at Drogo's side had no idea what was really happening here. Using an unorthodox fighting style, and losing, Humphrey likely felt as big a fool as he looked. Hardly the best showing for a servant of their new lord. But that's the intent with this charade, isn't it? Shaking off William's hand, Humphrey got to his feet, tightened his grip on his sword, and declared his readiness to continue. Again! The rest of that cask is mine, dear brother. Ha! Some fight left in you after all. Very well then. Come at me, brother, and taste defeat. The book now shifts to Drogo's perspective. You may have heard in my reading a few lines of dialogue that didn't quite seem to fit. That's because it's internal dialogue. It's hard to get across in a reading. If I was a more skilled audiobook reader, I might be able to get that over to you. But we're on to the next section here, which is Drogo's perspective. Drogo was so engrossed by Humphrey's renewed onslaught that he almost didn't hear the clerk speaking at his side. The little man's meaningless chatter went unnoticed until he stopped talking for a few breaths, then switched topics altogether. How long? How much time does it take to learn that? Drogo glanced at the clerk, amused by his slack jaw and wide eyes. Fighting to keep his face impassive, he returned his attention to his brothers. Careful now. Don't show them everything. Depends on the man, Drogo replied. William and I find no one here in the South as our equal, but you cannot judge such things on a practice field. In battle, the true measure of a man is in how fiercely he protects his life, and that of the man next to him. My brothers and I have been fighting each other since we could first hold sticks of a reasonable length. Soon after we started playing at war, our father set us against decorated posts for a full year, calling out strokes and maneuvers at us until we shadowed them back with each blow. Drogo let the image build in the clerk's mind before continuing, savoring the richness of memory for himself. Standing tall next to William as they became full knights, taking their buffets without a sound and then feasting throughout the night. With Humphrey's hungry eyes watching, eager to join us in Father's respect. Humphrey still had that same hunger, but it was controlled now, harnessed into something wondrous. By the speed of their blows, Drogo knew both men were deep into their rhythms, no longer thinking about how their arms moved, or where the next blow would land. His brothers moved through form after form, catching and returning blows almost too fast to see. Just watching it awakened the same spirit in his heart, and Tancred's voice came back to him from a field many years away. When it is time to act, you must act, not think. The sword is in your hand, and the hand is part of your arm. They are not separate things. They are one with your mind. Let nothing distract you from your opponent. He is between you and the rest of your life, and you must move past him to see it. How to describe that day in the rain to this clerk, with his ink-stained fingers and embroidered sleeves? Father coming at them with a drawn blade, pushing both boys back to the mud as they blocked each strike until they could no longer feel their arms. For each blow they caught on the edge of their swords, the next one's force doubled. When they moved the strong part of the blade into position for a proper catch, it lessened. Drogo knew now it took so many blows that day to figure out. With each swing, Tancred invited his sons to strike back at him. The lesson ended when William accepted the offer, and given how much rain fell in Hauptville, more likely than not, Humphrey had learned it under similar conditions. Humphrey's strong left arm certainly had no hesitation now. William's more agile shield gave him an advantage on the left side, but in this fight neither man used their shield to stop a blade. Instead, they waged a battle with all parts of their bodies, feinting, pushing, spinning across the courtyard, startling birds as they went. When it happened, Drogo almost missed Humphrey's move. It started as a standard strike at William's sword arm, one he caught and moved aside with little effort. But then Humphrey spun his sword, placing its flat side against his older brother's weapon and then diving forward. The reckless move made William take an involuntary step back. Humphrey's next maneuver pressed his brother's sword against the round shield, and then a follow-up blow from the kite forced both into William's chest. Off balance, spinning away from the blow, William grunted as Humphrey's edge slammed full across his back and drove him to the ground. So, what do you think? Is it worth buying? Is it worth reading? If you think so, please go buy it on Amazon.com. The book's title is Hearts of Iron. And if you'd like to know more about my writing and what I do, please visit me on the web at scottjamesmagner.com. There's a section up there about this book and about all the other things that are important in my life. If you like this video, please let me know. Perhaps we'll do more in the future. But I really hope that you enjoyed a selection of Hearts of Iron and that you'll possibly pick it up and tell your friends. Thank you.